the question is, all these things we see, how do you decide what's real and what's not real? Okay, because believe me, I'm going to say right now, 99% of it is not real, especially when it comes to anti-aging, but I'm not talking about just anti-aging right now. So, are diet sodas good or bad? Okay. Well, I'm not even going to try to answer the question because I am not qualified to answer this question. Okay, but I want to use it as an example, but the question is, are good, because you hear this all the time, but is it true? Is aspartame bad for you or not? I mean, is it special interest groups trying to get you to believe that it's bad because Diet Coke is the #1 selling soft drink there is and everybody wants to bring them down so that people go buy their products? I mean, is it true or not? Well, let me get back to you in a second here. Ibuprofen. This is another one you hear a lot. A lot of people in the press news are saying, don't take ibuprofen, it's really bad for you. Okay, again, I'm not going to be answering these questions tonight. I'm just going to be giving a protocol on how to answer them yourself. And I don't want to get into debates, especially about something I don't know very much about. Okay. GMOs. We all hear GMOs are really bad for you. But are they really? You know, or is it just some special interest group trying to get you to think so? Eggs. We've all heard eggs are bad for you. Okay? And then later, so what happened? In the 1980s, everybody believed eggs were bad for you. They believed they're filled with cholesterol, and when you eat eggs, all that cholesterol goes into your blood. So in the 1980s, this is what we were all led to believe. You know, if it's really true, then why don't we still believe that? Okay, so if people were saying this in the 1980s, that eggs were bad, where did they get their data from? Did anybody go to look at it? Or did people just take everybody's word for it? When people got on the news and the TV commercials and stuff like that saying eggs are bad, we just believed it. All right? So why, in 2015, do we now say eggs are good for you? Okay, well, yeah. What happened? Well, okay, so the U.S. Dietary Guidelines, let me get out of everybody's way, in 2015 says there's no appreciable relationship between consumption of dietary cholesterol and serum blood cholesterol. What that's saying is that if you eat cholesterol, it doesn't end up in your blood. Okay, well, why did people think it used to? And why did they say it on the news and stuff like that and make us all believe it? Okay, now they come out and say, well, what do you know? They fed radioactively labeled cholesterol into a person and it never showed up in the blood. We now know that the cholesterol comes from fats that get produced by your liver. Okay, so we now have all these rules about fats. Maybe those aren't true either, but right now we believe they are. But I believe it's really not that we just can't take the word of all these people in the news telling us. And eggs, I think, is a good example. Okay, so where do we get our data from? Well, one of the most common places is anecdotal data. Okay, so testimonials. We all get these all the time. Our friends tell us we believe it. We hear it in the news, we believe it. But, you know, it's not all true. Okay, I mean, with the exception of maybe Isogenics. I think, I mean, I'm a big fan of Isogenics because I do believe in all their products and stuff, and I know they're scientists. Okay, so then the next thing is case studies. And this is a big problem, I think, especially in the medical community. A doctor will look at one patient. Case studies usually mean one patient. They'll look at one patient that has some kind of heart disease or some kind of cancer, and they do something special, and they cure it. And they write a paper on it, and they get up and talk in front of an audience. And everybody believes this is what we must do. I mean, I'm thinking of examples like some woman saying that she cured her husband of Alzheimer's with coconut oil. The coconut oil prices, I mean, the market of them just skyrocketed, and so did the prices because of that. And nobody knows that her husband died shortly thereafter from Alzheimer's. But it's like that all got lost somewhere in the background. But it's case studies just don't mean anything. Then there's scientifically peer-reviewed articles, studies. So I always talk about scientifically peer-reviewed journal articles. This is one of the best places to get something or to find out if something in the future is going to work, because this is typically usually still at the research phase when you read these journal articles. And then there's double-blind placebo-controlled studies. And this is where something has actually gotten into the hands of the doctors, and they're now doing a study with a whole bunch of people. Double-blind placebo is probably the best way to do a clinical study and get something meaningful. Now, I did forget to put one thing on here. Number 5 is Ask Bill Falloon. Okay? Now, I forgot all about that one until I heard Jim talk about Bill Falloon. But I'll tell you, I've known Bill Falloon for, I'd say, 10 years now, and he's so adamant about doing whatever he can for his own health, that he never lets anything get by, and he is so critical of the FDA and other government organizations and stuff, and you can read about it in their magazine. Okay, so these are the things you can do, but I would draw the line right there, okay? I mean, I really wouldn't spend a lot of time believing anecdotal data. That leads us into a lot of wrong decisions. I wouldn't be doing case studies either. That also leads us into wrong directions. Okay, so PubMed is probably the best place to go to look at scientifically peer-reviewed journal articles. I've shown this slide before. I just want to show it again. That's the website, but you don't need to write it down because all you got to do is Google PubMed. It stands for Publications in Medicine. And it's published in these are articles that are published in scientifically peer-reviewed journals, meaning that not only did the scientists do the study, but then when they submitted it to the journal sent it to a whole bunch of other scientists and had them read the study and see if this is legit, and they had to approve it. So it was peer-reviewed and peer-approved. Okay, next level is to actually go to look at the clinical studies. And you can do that at www.clinicaltrials.gov. People don't know this, but it's starting to get out now. If you really want to find a really good doctor, if you have cancer or heart disease or something like that, and you want to find a really good doctor, find a doctor that's actually participating in clinical studies. And you will find that there's a lot of things going on that most doctors don't even know. I call most doctors cattle herders because they got so many patients. They're just getting in and out, You know, a patient comes in, next one goes out, et cetera. And they don't have time to really treat the individual. But clinical trial doctors do. So I recommend seeing those type of doctors. Now, they're not always right. Okay, so PubMed and clinical studies aren't always right. This is a little scientific. I mean, usually when I'm speaking to scientific audiences, they're already laughing because they can read this stuff and know what it's saying. But let me just try to, this is two articles, scientifically peer-reviewed journal articles that came out in the same journal, the Journal of Immunology, 2 weeks apart from each other. And they both say, they're both talking about immortalization with telomerase. Okay? But 2 weeks apart from each other in the same journal, probably by the same peer-reviewed scientist, one says that telomerase immortalizes the cells, the other one says it's not sufficient to immortalize the cells. And so you can't believe everything, even in PubMed. So what I recommend is you don't just rely on one study. And this is one of the reasons I'm opposed to case studies. You find all the studies. So you do a search in clinicaltrials.gov or PubMed, you find all the studies. You'll find that 99% of them will support one claim and 1% will support the other claim. Well, go with the 99%. Okay? And that's what happens. A lot of people who are trying to market some product, they'll take that 1% and they'll show it in their website or their press releases and stuff like that and get you to believe that their product is doing something. And the big problem that I should have said earlier when I was talking about anecdotal data and case studies, if you want to find anything, if you want to find that just standing up is bad for you or sitting down is bad for you, anything like that, you can find it. Okay? You can go to Google, do a Google search, you're going to find some study that's going to say one thing or another, especially when you're dealing with anecdotal data and you're dealing with case studies. Okay, well, you're going to also find it here. You're going to find studies that somehow got approved, and I don't know how, but sometimes they do. And so it's good. Like one thing I'm really good at reading the studies and being able to figure out which ones are full of crap and which ones aren't. Okay, and especially in my own field of telomere biology. But and there's a lot of it. I mean, especially in the field of anti-aging, there's, as I say this all the time, there's more quacks and charlatans than any other field I've ever seen. And so weeding these people out is really a big, something I have to do all the time. Okay, so is diet sodas, ibuprofen, GMOs, eggs good or bad for you? Again, I'm not going to answer. I'm going to show you how to answer yourself. What do the scientifically peer-reviewed studies say? I think if people went to this, they'd be really surprised, okay? What does the double-blind placebo-controlled studies say? Again, I think you'd be really surprised. And your whole attitude would be changing about things. Next time somebody sees me drinking a Diet Coke, don't say, hey, are you crazy? You know, just maybe I am. Maybe I just like it so much I'll take the risk. But it might, I don't know. I don't want to answer the question today though. Okay, but don't rely on anecdotal data or case studies. Okay, it's just, you can find anything that says anything, especially with anecdotal data and case studies. Let's now get towards my field a little bit, which is, of course, anti-aging. Do you know, especially like in the last 3 months, it seems like there's been a tremendous number of people saying they have cured aging. Let's say not the last 3 months, maybe the last year. I mean, there's these raising NAD levels with mononucleotide, nicotinamide riboside and nicotine mononucleotide, glycine, some of these epitalon. I mean, again, I'm not going to tell you which ones work and which ones don't, but there's a lot of crap in this list, but there's also a lot of stuff that really works. And so I have to weed through this all the time. And of course, some things like CoQ10 and stuff like that, I do take, and I continually take because I do believe it's doing something. But have any of them really cured aging? Because you hear them all the time saying, we found the cure for aging. And what have they done? They have made some little function in the mitochondria of your cells produce more energy, and so now you have more energy than your friends are same age. Did that cure aging? They say it is, but no. Aging's a little more complicated than that. Or did it just decrease disease onset? Okay, if you have something that decreases your rate of getting heart disease or cancer or something like that, a lot of people are saying that's the cure for aging. Well, yeah, well, populations live longer when you've cured cancer and heart disease, okay? But is that any different than asking the question, would safer cars be a cure for aging? If we make safer cars and therefore our average lifespans increase because of that, is that a cure for aging? And this is the fallacy that I get into all the time. That's what 99% of the compounds that are available on the market right now that say they cure aging, they're doing. What they're doing is they're making you healthier. They're preventing disease from happening, but they're not really curing aging. Okay, what do scientific peer-reviewed studies say? What do the double-blind placebo-controlled experiments say? And again, don't rely on anecdotal data or case studies. This is the thing. When you come to anti-aging especially, there's so much charlatan and quackery out there that, you know, but fortunately there's some good science too. Thank you very much. So this kind of leads to kind of a different subject. And it's kind of related, but when a lot of these people, when they say they've cured aging, they're defining aging differently than the rest of us do. And that I think is a way for them to slip through and actually get people to believe that they've cured aging. But really, what is the definition of aging? And what is the definition of curing aging? Okay, well, I got one little question to ask of all of you. Is there anybody here that doesn't know which photo of Betty White was taken first? That's what aging is. I don't know. I can't tell you a whole bunch of biomarkers and stuff like that. People have been trying to identify biomarkers of aging forever, but nobody's actually come up with any single definitive one that's really really correlated 100% to aging. But we don't need these biomarkers. We know what aging is. There it is right there. And what's the cure for aging? That's the cure for aging. When Betty White walks out on stage and looks 24 years old again, I'm going to say aging has been cured. All right, so I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to, because I'm just so surprised at how much crap there is out there, and I just want to get people to start learning a way of finding out for themselves. But because I am a telomere biologist, and maybe there's one or two people in this room that haven't seen me talk, I thought I would just go through the telomere. This is my trade slides, okay? Okay, so telomeres, for those of you that don't know. Telomeres are really small things inside of us. We need to zoom in on a human being to see what they are. And the first thing we see is that humans are made up of 100 trillion cells. And most of the theories on why we age say that we age because our cells age. Now you should be able to repeat this after me because you've heard it so many times. Okay, well, we got to zoom in any further, and we see that every cell contains a nucleus, and inside the nuclei are chromosomes. The chromosomes are where your genes are that give you your hair color, your eye color, etc. When we zoom in on one chromosome, we see that a chromosome is made up of two arms, a bottom arm and a top arm. Inside each arm is this really long string of beads called DNA. It's about 100 million beads in length. The beads are called bases, so it's 100 million bases in length. And it's so long that it's all coiled up like a slinky from one end to the other. Well, the telomeres are at the end of this DNA, just like a shoelace. Think of it, this long string of beads as a long shoelace. The caps on your shoelaces that protect your shoelaces are the same as the telomeres in your chromosomes. And what they do is they protect your chromosomes. Okay, so now we zoom in on one telomere. We see, and we unravel that slinky, and we see that a telomere, when you're first conceived, is about 15,000 bases in length. And this is now where all the trouble begins, because I want you to think of this as a clock. This is a clock that's ticking inside all of us. It's a clock of aging. Okay, so when you're first conceived, your telomeres are 15,000 bases in length. As soon as your cells divide, and every single time they divide, the telomeres get a little bit shorter. Now, there's a lot of cell division between the day you're conceived and your newborn baby, so your telomeres will have shortened down to 10,000 bases before you're even born. Let me ask, who here hasn't heard this before? Anybody new to this? Wow, okay. Oh, so there are people that haven't heard it, okay. All right. So you're born at 5,000 or 10,000 bases, so your telomeres have already shortened from 15,000 to 10,000 bases before you're even born. And this is like clockwork. You can actually measure the length of the telomeres in an embryo and determine what stage that embryo is in just from the length of the telomeres. Now the problem doesn't stop there, and there's really not a problem yet, because just like if you cut the caps on your shoelaces in half, your shoelaces are still okay. The problem starts happening when they get really short. Okay, so you're continuing to grow up, you have more and more cell division, so your telomeres are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And when your telomeres get down to 5,000 bases, your cells lose the ability to function and you die of old age. This has been shown in petri dish, human cells grown in petri dishes. It's been shown with cells taken from people at various ages, let's say skin cells, immune cells, everything. We find that the telomeres shorten down to 5,000 bases. Those cells lose the ability to function. They go into a stage called senescence, and you die of old age. This is not a theory anymore. This is an absolute fact. Every single person that works with human cells in a petri dish in their labs all over the world know this. Okay, it's a fact. You can't do this. And this is a big problem for people doing research, because their cells die of old age while they're working with them. And they have to get more cells. Well, so let me start over again. You're conceived at 15,000 bases, you're born at 10,000 bases, and you die of old age at 5,000 bases. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about this. No matter how well you eat or exercise or do everything your doctors say tell you to do, you can't stop this. This is ongoing. That's what my mission is all about, is to figure out a way to stop this. And so this is where the enzyme telomerase comes in. This is an enzyme I discovered in the mid-1990s. And it's the enzyme that occurs in our body to keep our children from being born with shorter telomeres than we have. So it makes our children born young. And so what it does is every time the telomeres get shorter, it re-lengthens the telomeres. So that's the enzyme that I'm using in my business right now to keep our telomeres long and to actually lengthen them. I want to so right now every cell of your body does not contain this enzyme, therefore your telomeres get shorter. I am working on ways to produce that enzyme in every cell so our telomeres get longer and make us younger. Now, we've already seen this work in human cells in petri dishes. We've seen this work on human skin grown on the back of mice. But now what I want to show you is that telomere lengthening has reversed aging in mice. And this is the scientifically peer-reviewed journal article that says so. Okay? Nobody has refuted it. It is a fact. It's known all over the world. Thousands of labs have done similar types of experiments and can reproduce this. But that's the clinical data. So, like, when somebody comes to you and says, hey, we've cured aging in mice, the first thing you want to do is ask them, show me the data. And they usually can't. They can't. And they might show you data, and then you might look at the data and you realize it doesn't show it at all. Okay, but here's the thing. That title isn't exactly that clear, but the press releases that came out in Nature News, which is the #1 most prestigious scientific magazine in the world right now, Nature magazine, said telomerase reverses aging process. I mean, that sets it aside from everything else that's trying to work. I'll just go through this fast because I think I'm probably running out of time. This study showed telomeres got longer, restoration of fertility, the mice could breed again when they couldn't breed. They had viable offspring when before they were treated, they could not breed at all. Their spleen size, their sense of smell came back, which is a sign of brain function. They saw their brain size and function come back. These mice could remember how to go through a maze when they had forgotten. Okay, so somehow that brought memory back, which is exciting because maybe this is a way to cure Alzheimer's. But we won't know until we have something to try in humans and find out. And they also saw that the mouse lived a lot longer. But today's big message is look at that. Scientifically peer-reviewed study reference. When somebody stands up in front of an audience and makes a claim like this and shows data like this, they better have a reference down there, okay? Or they're full of crap, okay? You'll see in every slide I've ever shown anybody anywhere, I always have the reference there so somebody can go and look it up themselves and see for real that it's for true. So lengthening the telomeres reversed aging by every method of measurement imaginable in mice. This makes me extremely excited about what we're doing and the hopes for this being soon available for humans. And it's the only thing that's ever done this. Nothing else. Everything you hear about. Somebody comes in and says, we have a cure for aging. Say, can you do this? Okay? You know, there's a lot of stuff out there. Resveratrol has been published a lot of times to reverse aging, but it never did this. I mean, there's some things that have worked in mice, roundworms, fruit flies, and yeast, but none of those things have ever worked in humans because we're not the same. We're very different. Besides just our appearance, we're very, very different in terms of the way our cells function. So, but we are only 1 year away, we think, and as Jim said, funding is the really big thing, but we're solving our own funding problems now. But we figure we're about 1 year away from being able to do the same thing in humans, or at least start testing in humans. And I have an announcement. You may have already heard this, but Sierra Sciences, this is why it's going to be 1 year away. Sierra Sciences and BioViva, Liz Parrish, we have now joined forces, and we have started a new company called BioViva Fiji on Fiji Island. And we are now building a large-scale production facility and a clinic to soon be able to provide a gene therapy approach towards curing aging. And we have every anticipation of having it done before the end of this year. So I am really excited about this. So we're providing the gene therapy. My company is building the gene therapy and providing it. She's providing the doctors who are skilled at treating people with the gene therapy. And it's not going to be affordable. Okay, that's the problem. This is going to be super expensive for us to do, and it's going to be even more expensive for clients to pay for it. But the funding, the money we make from doing this is going to be able to fund the research to make it so we can all have something affordable. Okay, so to learn more, again, read my book on curing aging. It's available at Amazon.com if there's anybody here that doesn't already have it. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, watch The Immortalist, because there's a good section in there. It's a good part about describing the research that I'm doing. And start believing that the cure for aging is in our grasp. It's going to happen really, really soon. And thank you very much. I think there's time for questions. Thank you.